Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Hustle and Hoops team breakdown, where today we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Now, to start off, let's talk about their main four. This offseason, they did lose Jalen Brunson, which was a huge loss. However, they added Christian Wood in a trade, which has absolutely been the needed output that Jalen Brunson Brunson left. Spencer Dinwiddie has been excellent. Comes in, plays his role, and doesn't make a deal out of it. And he, whether it's coming off the bench or starting, plays really nice next to Luka, to be honest. Better than I thought he would. And then you look at number 4 with Dorian Finney-Smith, and he's the glue guy. He's the guy that brings it all together. At the end of the day, the defensive anchor for this team is Dorian Finney-Smith. He is guarding the other team's best player. He is out there giving the most defensive effort play-by-play. And that just leaves Luka Magic. What else do I have to say? We'll get into the advanced stats later, but we move. So this season, 2022-2023 season, Dallas Mavericks so far 10-11 as of this recording. They're 22nd in points per game with 110.1. But they, like last year, with offense and defense, are 5th in opponent points per game at 108.7. Of surrounding Luka with the correct pieces to come out there and defend on a night-by-night basis. And you obviously have Jason Kidd, who has proved himself to be a top tier defensive coach in this league. It's exciting. It's exciting. Now, the 22nd in points per game again is concerning for sure. But, you have Tim Hardaway Jr. having a slow start, shooting 34% from the field. You have Davis Bertans not shooting well from the field. You're just not shooting that well from the free throw line. And despite this team having a lot of offensive weapons, there's not necessarily a guy off the bench who you can turn to. Now, oftentimes it's Spencer Dinwiddie that they turn to on the bench, which works, definitely works. But as you get closer to the playoffs and as rosters thin out, it's going to get tougher and tougher to say, Spencer, we want you playing 34 minutes staggered, he's getting 32 minutes per game right now. And at least from what I was watching, the utilization of Spencer Dinwiddie has been back and forth. And they definitely need to figure out exactly what his position is going to be. Championship teams have definitive roles, and we'll get to that. But I'm not exactly sure where a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie fits in if it's not that leader off the bench. Now, do you want to bring 2 of your best players off the bench, and Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood? That's a different argument. And that's a tough one too. Because, me personally, I believe your closeout lineup should probably be Luka, Reggie Bullock, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and JaVale McGee, offensively and defensively. The stats don't necessarily agree with me, though. The stats say that offensively, Luka, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber, and Christian Wood is the best offensive lineup, which makes sense. You've got 3 shooters in Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Maxi Kleber. You've got, honestly, if we're being real right now, a tertiary ball handler in Christian Wood and Luka, who's an offensive in it of himself. That lineup had a 37-point differential. Clearly, by far the best lineup offensively that this team has run, with an effective field goal percentage of 69% and 150 points per possession. This lineup hasn't gotten tons and tons of run, but it is one of the highest run lineups for this Dallas Mavericks team, and it's clearly, it's pretty obvious why. They struggle with offense. You bring in this squad and shit flips. And a lot of that has to do with, the continuation of Maxi Kleber being, a solid 3-point shooter, a solid floor spacer, along with, a decent interior playmaker. And, you have Christian Wood, who is averaging 17 points per game and shooting 50-40. As a Pistons fan, it hurts. But as a fan of basketball, Christian Wood's continued steps into becoming a really solid NBA player. Very beautiful, very exciting. But defensively, a lineup I like personally a little bit more would be Luka, Dinwiddie, Bullock, Finney-Smith, and Powell. Now that lineup had an opponent points per possession of 105 and an opponent effective field goal percentage of 51.5%. Very solid defensive lineup. And, you bring in JaVale McGee if the big is one of the bigs, more likely than not. And you bring in Josh Green if Reggie Bullock is gassed and is sometimes too slow on the perimeter to guard X player. I think this team has the capability of running the necessary lineup combinations to beat almost any team in the NBA. Almost. Obviously, there are the X Factor teams, the superstar teams, the Golden States, the Brooklyns, Bucks, the Nuggets, the Cavs, the Sixers, but they've definitely got a recipe. And Jason Kidd has for sure figured out mostly how he wants to play this team. And you add in Christian Wood, you add in JaVale McGee. I'm very excited for the playoffs. But let's take a deep dive real quick into Luka Dončić and his advanced stats, because it's always fun. So many people have made videos about Luka. So many people have talked about Luka. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know more about basketball and know more about his game. But what I can do is point out some things that I saw, and we can talk about them. Luka's game obviously predicates almost entirely on an inside-out mindset. He heavily loves the post-up, and he heavily loves to just take that bitch right at you and just drive it. Now, there are obviously the step backs, there's the miracle shots and shit like that, but B-Ball Breakdown, I believe it was, just did a video talking about this, and you should definitely go watch it, because this man Luka, despite being in the 89th percentile, or despite being in the 31st percentile in paint touches per 75, and only the 89th percentile in total post frequency, was in the 99th percentile for post-up impact per 75. In the 86th percentile in post-up draw foul rate. He was in the 99th percentile in drives per 75, 98th percentile in unassisted rim field goal attempts per 75. Luka has the ability somehow to not only break you down and get around you, or use that threat that he constantly has of getting to the basket to just shoot over you, because he can, because he's that big, he's that tall, and he gets that much space, I guess. I don't know. It's really not that. He doesn't get space. He doesn't get that much lift on his jump shot. It's not like he's doing he is doing some crazy dribble moves between the leg, behind the backslide to the three. That's a tough move. But he's not twing, pull up. That's not Luka. That's not Luka's game necessarily. He does it, but that's not his game. And at the end of the day, Luka's game, manipulating offenses, it's not necessarily one thing every game, because every team has a different defense, and every team have different schemes, and every team has different players. So you have to play them a different way. So Luka takes the knowledge that he has about each team and about each player and about each scheme and flips that on them, whether that be through, like I said, the post-up, where he can get you with his shoulder and all of a sudden you think he's going right for the fade, but he's already on the other side hitting a pump fake and then passing it out to the corner. Like, he just has so much in his bag, and he uses it constant. So it's a very fun time to watch Luka Dončić play basketball. And that is largely why I believe going into this season, and still, that Luka Dončić has the capability to carry a team, carry to a championship, in my belief. However, do I think that will happen this year? I don't know. What I do know is that the way this team is playing, despite being 10-11, the way Luka Dončić is playing, this is a conference finals team. It's a conference finals team. That's all I got. Hope y'all enjoyed. See y'all on the next one. Peace.